How's it going, guys? Danomight here, coming to you as always from the Digital Warfare 24/7 forums, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys my top 10 tips on how to play the new zombie game mode in Black Ops 2 that is going to be Grief mode. So to kick things off here, I'd like to sort of talk a little bit about the basics. Are you kidding me? This guy again? Come on. Hello? Hello? Richtofen? Come on, dude. I told you I was going to be recording a commentary this evening. Oh, I see how it is. So you think that you're more qualified to talk about Grief than I am. That's right, huh? Well, I'll tell you what, buddy. How about you at least introduce the game mode to us, and then I'll take over from there, and then maybe you can stop bugging me and I can finish up this commentary. It sound good? Yeah? Alrighty, I'll talk to you later, man.
We will work together against the zombies, yeah? Co-op time! So much fun! Wunderbar! You're on two teams and only one team makes it out alive, so...
Dude, people are playing so slow.
Okay, so thank you guys so much for tolerating that very rude and unintended interruption. And now we're going to move on and actually talk a little bit about some of the tips that I have for you guys on how to play Grief mode, how to take advantage of what this game has to offer. Now, first of all, I'm going to start off with some more sort of generalized tips and move into more specific. So the first tip, and you can't really get any more generalized than this, is you're probably wondering, is there any way you can attack the other team that you're playing against? And my answer to you there is sort of. So what you can do is you can actually knife your opponent, and that will actually move them away from you slightly. Now, there are several ways you can use this to your advantage. First of all, there are lava zones all over the map. You can knife them and try to push them into that. Usually you need a couple of people to get together and sort of try to trap them on top of a lava zone to down them. Also, if an opponent is trying to repair windows, especially early on when those points are crucial, you can knock them away from those. Most importantly, though, is that if someone is trying to revive a teammate, if you knife them, it'll break their revive and they actually won't be able to get it off. Now, finally, there's another thing you can do, which is if someone is trying to pack a punch or get a mystery box item, if you get enough people continually knifing them away from you, then you're probably going to be able to deny that from them. So there's another good option that you have there. Now, my second tip is going to be actually a counter to something I mentioned in the first tip, which is that if someone's trying to knife you while you are reviving, you can actually get off the revive pretty much flawlessly if you revive from a prone position. When your enemies knife you, it won't actually move you, and you'll still be able to get the revive off. So that is another very important thing to consider. Moving on to my third perk, it's very important in this game to pick up power-ups as soon as possible. Those of you who are familiar with standard zombies mode, like survival mode, know that a lot of power-ups, if you time them, you get better use out of them. Like if you let everyone reload before you pick up a max ammo, or if you let everyone switch to their low damage, high rate of fire weapons, or get ready to knife if there's an insta-kill. Now, that is not a good idea in Grief mode, because one of the important things to know is that only the team that picks up the power-up will gain its benefits. So if you see a power-up, you need to think about getting it extremely quickly. Even if there aren't enemies around that you can see, or people on the opposing team around, it's a very good idea to grab the power-ups very quickly. Now, fourthmost, for my fourth tip here, I'd like to talk about the Pack-a-Punch machine and the mystery box and ways that you can mess around with enemies who are trying to use them. Now, we already talked about knifing them, but there's actually an even more effective way to sort of screw with them, and that is the fact that the throwback grenade prompt will actually override the prompt to collect your weapon from either the mystery box or the Pack-a-Punch machine. So if you guys have a bunch of surplus nades, and in the early rounds especially, you can save the nades for this express purpose, as you can pelt your enemies with nades as they're trying to collect their weapons, especially if they have something good coming out of the box, like say a ray gun or a LMG. Throw those nades at the box, and if you throw enough of them and if you time it right, they won't actually be able to pick up their weapon. That is another good tip. Now, number 5 is just sort of a general gameplay tip, and that is that in early rounds you want to spread out your team as much as possible to maximize your points. Since there will be very few zombies at that point, they won't really be a risk to you, but the other team is trying to get those early points too. So what you really want to do is try to get out there, spread your teammates around, and get as many shots on the zombies as possible. Now, in these early rounds also, it's a good idea idea to avoid waiting for them to get to the windows and just shoot them outright, because your opposing teammates, well, not your teammates, the enemies on the opposing team are going to be trying to get points in early rounds as well. It's very important for getting that early upper hand, either by buying perks or hitting the mystery box. So just go ahead and shoot them, because if you don't, then the opposing team is probably going to shoot them if you're just sitting there at the window waiting for a zombie to come up so you can knife it for those extra points. Now, in later rounds, when the zombies are getting a lot more dangerous, a lot more numerous, it's a better idea to sort of base your team in just one position, have everyone cluster together for protection. And it's usually good to pick a place, like you can see in this gameplay, that my team is pretty much all holed up in the upper story of this building on town, and it's basically the building that Juggernaut spawns in. And another really good thing is to try to base yourself in a building where you have a wall weapon, which in Black Ops 2 Zombies pretty much means either the MP5 or the M14. And you can see that the MP5 is what I'm using pretty much exclusively to conserve my ammunition and my hammer in this particular gameplay. Moving on to tip number 6, in earlier rounds it's a good idea to outlast your opponents, and what I mean by that is, say, instead of buying doors that are going to cost a lot of points to access an area like Juggernaut, say on this map on town, what you can do is you can actually save up those points, and if you're a more skilled team, or if you get a good couple weapons out of the mystery box early on, then you can actually force them to buy the doors, and that is going to give you the upper hand in points early on. So if you can get your enemies to spend points on stuff, be it by getting them downed, be it by getting them in a position where they're desperate to get to a particular perk, that is always a good thing. Now, my 7th tip is that it is actually possible to view how many points each of your opponents has by hitting the back button on your controller. Now, you can really use this to your advantage. Say if you see all of your opponents are around 3,000 points and the door to Juggernaut on this particular map is not yet open. In that case, you can expect them to be making a push soon, because they're all going to be able to buy that perk soon. Another thing you can look out for is if an opponent is getting close to 5,000 points, you can start looking at maybe throwing grenades at the Pack-a-Punch machine, or trying to distract that opponent away from the Pack-a-Punch machine and try to get him to either lose his weapon or not be able to Pack-a-Punch at all. So every once in a while it's good to just tap that back button and see where your opponents are in terms of points. Now, my 8th tip is that it's really a good idea to attract zombies to your teammates in early rounds for more points, and then attract zombies to your enemies in later rounds to possibly get them downed, because that's how you win, obviously. Now, there are a couple different ways you can do this. The first is by using monkey bombs. You can either throw them in the vicinity of your teammates in early rounds to sort of steal the zombies away from the other team, thus allowing you to get more points early on, or what you can do is you can actually throw the monkey bombs at your opponents in later rounds, which is something that we actually do in this gameplay and that was instrumental to helping us down the enemy team. Now, a new addition to Black Ops 2 Grief is the meat, or the steak, I'm not sure what you call it, but it's basically a power-up that looks like a chop of meat. And the idea is you pick it up and it shows you like holding this giant pork chop or whatever, and if you're carrying it, the zombies will all run towards you, but you can also throw it, and if you throw it at a player, the player that's hit by the meat will sort of trail this green aura behind them, and all the zombies will start following them. You can also just throw it on the ground and all of the zombies will run to that point. Now, it's a really good idea to use that in the same way as I just described you're using the monkey bombs. In early rounds, throw it on your teammates or at the ground around your teammates so you can get all those kills racked up, and then in the higher rounds it's a better idea to throw it at your opponents so that they get overwhelmed by a sudden rush of zombies. Now, my 9th tip here is going to be using the EMP Grenades, which is another new addition to Black Ops 2 Zombies. Now, what you can do with the EMP Grenades is if you throw them at a perk machine or at the Pack-a-Punch machine, it will actually disable them temporarily. So you can work out some strategies based on this. Say, for instance, that you guys rush to Juggernaut really quickly, like if everyone is able to get a bunch of points really fast, you can all buy Jug, and then you can have one person just dedicated to popping EMP Grenades at the Juggernaut machine. Now, this obviously only works if you're able to get a lot of points early and if you're able to get the EMP Grenades early. But another good way to use it is, excuse me, if you notice that an opponent has gone down, you know he's going to be needing Jug right away. So as soon as an enemy goes down, EMP Juggernog, and that'll stop him from being able to rebuy it. So that'll be my 9th tip, and then moving on to my 10th and final tip. If a game is dragging on and you notice that neither team is really wavering at all, what you can do is you can train a large group of zombies, and what I mean by that is more experienced zombie players will know that if you run around in a certain area and collect more and more zombies behind you so that you can deal with them all at once, that's called training. Or running a train. What you can do is you can take that train and you can run it to over where your opponents are hanging out, and that will hopefully overwhelm them and allow them to be downed. And this is actually a tactic that Midnight from the forums pioneered in this particular game, and so I'll let you guys listen in at the end here as we finish these guys off. So thanks so much for listening to me, guys. Hopefully these 10 tips that I gave you will help you succeed in grief. So all of you, get out there, get griefing, and win yourself some games. Take care, guys. Thanks so much.
I was going to practice my hammer for the 3rd time. See what I got out of it.
Midnight, you had 189 headshots.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel kind of bad. I did kind of bad there, guys, compared to you.
Well, you had no ammo for half of it, so I wouldn't worry.